The #1 kit plane manufacturer announces financial problems. And a student pilot sabotages 10 planes. This and more aviation news for the week on Taking Off. Hi, I'm Dan Milliken, and before we get to the news, I want to mention a sponsor, 67 Designs, their tablet, cell phone, and camera mounts. I was just at their manufacturing plants yesterday, and it's incredible to see just how much their mounts and their products are made by hand. They're not just shipping in ready-made cheap product and slapping a logo on it. I've got a Taking Off package at their website, 67d.com. Just pick a mag mount if you want to hold a phone or tablet, or choose GoPro mount if it's for your GoPro. Link below, and more about sponsors at the end. Okay, let's get to the news, a lot of it. United Airlines announced this past week a new boarding procedure. Passengers ticketed for window seats will board first, followed by the middle seat ticket holders, and then the aisle. Will this actually speed up boarding? United claims it'll shave 2 minutes off the boarding process. What do you think? I'm a window guy, but if I were an aisle guy, I'd hate the thought of waiting to board and getting on there and no overhead space being left. I read the comments below. I'm curious your thoughts, so let me know. Boeing has let word get out that they regret the government contract to build the next 2 Air Force One 747s. Trump held them to a very strict deal, and with inflation and overruns and delays, Boeing is saying they're losing money on the deal now, which was for $3.9 billion, and Boeing claiming to have lost now $1 billion on each of the 2 planes, $2 billion. This is only the latest tough financial news for Boeing, who has lost over $25 million according to their books since the 737 MAX problems. All right, this week the FAA finally got a new administrator. In a day and age of extreme partisanship, Whitaker was approved by the Senate with a vote of 98-0. He was the second appointee by the Biden administration and comes with a really solid resume. He served as the deputy administrator of the FAA, decades of airline operational experience at United and TWA, and most recently serving as chief operating officer for an advanced air mobility company. And his agency will now be under even more pressure after what just happened in Houston. Let's get to that. 2023 has had a number of high-profile near misses at the big airports, and this week the near miss turned into a hit. At Houston Hobby International, a Hawker private jet took off without clearance and clipped a Cessna Citation. Fortunately, no injuries, but a split-second difference in timing, and this would have been a totally different story. The Hawker was directed to line up and wait at the departure end of the runway while the Citation was landing on a cross runway. For those who don't know, the line up and wait directive means you can cross the runway threshold and line up on center line for takeoff, but is not a takeoff clearance. You have to hold there. In fact, before they changed the verbiage to line up and wait, it was called taxi into position and hold. Regardless, the pilot went ahead and began his takeoff roll without being cleared, and his wing clipped the tail of the Citation where the runways cross. With the Hawker pretty much being at the point where you're committed to take off, he went ahead and did so. Then he circled back for an emergency landing, and the airport was closed for several hours. While some of the other incidents point finger at the ATC, this one looks to be pilot-induced, similar to the Boston Logan incident earlier where the private jet took off without a clearance and the tower had to tell a passenger jet to go around. A primary safety focus for several years with the FAA has been runway incursions. And with the official appointment of the new head of the FAA finally in place, I would think all these near misses and now hit will be examined extremely close in the upcoming months. In Florida, about 100 miles north of Miami at Witham Field Airport, a 23-year-old student, Sumaib Singh, here from India, is being accused of damaging 10 aircraft after he was denied solo flight. The student reportedly became angry at the Treasure Coast Flight School instructors when they wouldn't allow him to make the solo flight. The school officials had to call the sheriff's department when they saw the student going plane to plane, damaging each one. The school's cameras picked it up, and all 10 planes were affected, including damaged throttles, and the planes have been grounded. The Martin County Sheriff was quoted some of the damage would have impacted their ability to land. Sink has been charged with felony criminal mischief, and additional charges are pending. He's being held with no bond, and the FBI is now investigating. According to the arrest report, Sink is being held with no bond because he's in America on a work visa with a passport from India and has knowledge of flying and easy access to airplanes. Well, maybe not so easy anymore. 10 planes grounded for the school. It's not just the damage caused and repairs. There's the lost revenue for the school and for the instructors, with 10 planes being grounded. Even if the planes are only down a few days times 10, it's a lot of money. We wish Treasure Coast Flight School a speedy recovery. On Friday, October 27th, Van's aircraft founder, Dick Van Grunsven, made a tough announcement. As a result of serious cash flow issues, the company is going to have a 3-week assessment with a team, some of which are being brought in from the outside to examine everything. And a lot of Van's operations are going to be affected, including delivery of kits and parts, no refunds during this period, which they say will last for 3 weeks. Van's is taking time and effort to assess internal operations and make changes necessary to address the issues that are plaguing the #1 manufacturer of kit planes. And here's what Dick says.
Due to a number of factors, Vans is facing serious cash flow issues that must be addressed for ongoing operation. We are confident we can work through this situation, but some changes are required. I want you to know that all of us at Vans truly appreciate and value the loyalty and confidence you have shown us over these many years. I am deeply distressed over the need to communicate our current constraints to you, and I want to personally assure you that we are working very hard to solve these issues and to return Vans to a strong position to be here to serve you long into the future.
How did this happen to Vans? Well, it's a perfect storm of a bunch of factors. The pandemic slowing the supply chain, and that dramatically increased supply costs. And if they didn't really change their pricing structure, that takes a toll. Inflation with wages and shipping costs rising dramatically over the last few years. All of this basically means they've been selling kits below their costs, and that will catch up to a company. There was a situation also where an overseas supplier used an inferior primer, which meant scrapping a bunch of parts. And on the web press release, Vans mentions issues with outsourcing some aluminum parts that were laser cut rather than CNC'd. And while they believe the parts are equivalent, many in the home building market prefer the CNC. After this 3-week assessment, the prices at Vans will probably go up. And I'm not sponsored by Vans. I've not even flown in an RV, but I've met them and gotten to know some of the leadership team, and they're genuinely good guys. And I'm personally rooting for them, and I hope they emerge from this stronger and better than ever. For those affected at Vans, the customer, the vendors, I hope all the best. This too will pass. Finally, it's been over a week since the NTSB released the prelim report on the Cardinal crash that took the lives of NFL legend Russ Francis and AOP Vice President Richard McSpadden. There's not a lot of new information in the prelim report, but it looks like the engine was still making some power and the gear was in transit at the moment of impact. There's no smoking gun in the report, nothing to indicate the problem was fuel system or power plant or airframe. We'll now have to wait for the investigation to run its course and hopefully find out what happened. That's it for the news. Best way to support us is to support our sponsors. If you go to flyingeyesoptics.com and use our discount code taking off, all caps one word, you'll get 10% off. Colton Mortgage, coltontakingoff.com. Z-Vision, the brightest landing and taxi lights out there. Marshall Protective Services, mpsprotects.com. And clemensinsurance.net. Jerry saved me over $1,000 when I called him. So remember, superior judgment trumps superior skills. Take care.